feel, Connie?
So happy, so exciting. It's a big moment. Amazing. It feels like the Holy Spirit here and all the people waiting for this big moment. And I'm so excited. I'm hoping that the Pope it has the same line, like helping the poor, peace in the world, and helping the immigrants also. So supporting them.
That sounds like you're looking for somebody a bit like the late Pope Francis.
Absolutely, yes, because he was very humility and looking for the poor and for the needy.
So do you, among the most papabile, the popable candidates, do you have a favorite?
I think the Philippine, that I don't know his...
Luis Tagle.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, and I'm hoping. But whatever they choose, 100% that is God who chooses him. So we're going to support him and go with it, yes.
And you're from Southern California. You've come all the way across the United States, the Atlantic Ocean, to be here for this special moment.
For this special moment, yes. And I'm like so happy that it happened today, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Connie, and enjoy the rest of your stay here in Rome.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited, so happy. Yes, we have a Pope, yay! Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. So, Aaron, I don't think you're going to find anybody in this crowd who's not thrilled that there is a Pope. I don't know what all of this commotion is behind me, but obviously another happy crowd, happy that we've seen white smoke, happy that Habemus Papam.
Yeah.
Aaron?
Habemus Papam, as they say, and yet, and another person that you're speaking to with just those 4 simple words, I am so happy. Perhaps the simplicity of it, the joy of it does capture the moment for so many. David Culver also among the crowd. David, you just heard that commotion. Everyone, for I think an instant, thought perhaps the Pope is early coming to the balcony. No, not yet. But what are you seeing?
Hey there, Aaron. We had to, first of all, position ourselves towards the back end because the signal as we were in the midst of the crush was just too difficult. I want to introduce you to Father Valentine. Yeah. You're Italian.
I'm Italian, yeah.
So to be here for this moment, have you been here to see the white smoke go up?
No, I had never the chance to be here in this moment right now. I'm Italian. I studied in Rome. I came here in the last 30 years, every year. But I never had the chance to be here in this moment.
Father, I don't think I have seen so many smiles in one place and tears at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have a spiritual father again, you know, as Catholics, and also kind of for the whole world. This moment is very special, yeah, you know.
And were you part of the crush that moved up?
I was over there, and I saw the crowds running, and I went with them, and now I'm enjoying a kind of a little bit from the back, enjoying this moment, praying, and enjoying. Yeah.
We have a Pope.
Yeah, Habemus Papam.
Father, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Guys, it was incredible to be in that rush. I'm overwhelmed because there was such a rush of emotion that came towards us. And the first thing that indicated to me that there was white smoke was a group of about 5 religious sisters that nearly plowed me over, and they were holding hands and running one by one to try to get as close as they can to the front there. And now you can see St. Peter's Square is just filling up. I came across 2 young people, a young woman from Peru and another from Poland. They were together, and they were just in a flood of tears. And they said, we didn't expect that we would be here in this moment at this time. They said for them it was just divine, and then they had to go because one of their moms was calling, and they said, I've got to bring my mom into this moment with me. It's just incredible to see this, and you can hear now the cheers going. All people know is that they have a Pope. They know nothing beyond that. They don't know who this individual is, who he might be, but for them in this moment, the Holy See is no longer vacant. Aaron, it's incredible.
No, it is incredible. It is a beautiful moment to be a part of. Christopher, what are we looking at? Now, this is just behind us in front of St. Peter's Basilica, right underneath the balcony where the new Pope is going to walk out. You're seeing members of the Swiss Guard, obviously, the procession here.
Yeah, we're seeing, as you said, the Swiss Guard in their distinctive stripy coloured uniforms and the band that come out for major moments in the Vatican, and we expect them to play the Vatican national anthem in and around when the Pope is announced, the new Pope is announced. I think the fact that they're here suggests that it's not too long until we get the news of who has been elected as Pope.
That's right, because they are there preparing. And at least the who, of course, is the great question. In this crowd, I am so happy is the feeling. It appears
applause for
clapping
the band.
for them, the applause for the band and the Swiss Guard. But the who is going to matter, not just for Catholics around the world, but for the whole world. You know, Pope Francis had played such a crucial role in global politics. If you looked online, you looked at what media was saying, what experts were saying, what betting markets were saying. They were coalescing around either the Secretary of State, Pietro Parolin, 70-year-old most senior cardinal, or I believe the third most senior cardinal, Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines. And we just heard that woman from Southern California tell Ben Wiedemann she was hoping he had been selected, who someone called the Francis of Asia, and much more in his footsteps. It could be them, it could be somebody else, but the big question right now is who?
I think that's what everybody is so eager to know right now. Everyone's on pins and needles right now, and you can feel that here, the anticipation growing in the crowd as people come and wonder who this man is and what he's going to do. You know, I think many people had initially anticipated a longer conclave simply because so many of these guys were unknown to one another. Again, you know, and they haven't had a lot of time to talk and to meet before this conclave took place. So the fact that it happened very quickly, you know, many people might say does indicate that it was one of those front runners that we have, you know, been hearing so much about, whether it's Cardinal Parolin or Cardinal Tagle, you know, but again, nobody knows what happens inside of that chapel, you know, and once the votes start being cast. So it's still a mystery, and we're all waiting to see.
So who do you think it is?
I think, look, it's possible that it's one of the front runners, because of course that would suggest, you know, the number of ballots would suggest that it could be a front runner, because we think it's 4 or 5 ballots. However, it may be that someone else has come through. I mean, we know that the Cardinals were saying in their meetings before going into the conclave they want a Pope who's a pastor who can connect with people, whose message can go beyond the confines of the Catholic Church, who continues with what Francis started. So we know that the Cardinals were looking for that kind of figure, someone who has strong pastoral experience. So they were looking for a Pope who has that ability to reach as many people as possible, to continue in the vein of Francis. So, look, you know, we have to just wait and see, but I don't think we can be sure of anything at this point.
We can't be sure of anything, Father Beck, but and that is the bottom line.
Yeah.
However, they did this with alacrity, and that would, in a standard way, indicate that possibly it was one of the more front-runner expected candidates, not necessarily, but possibly, which does leave people like Cardinal Parolin and Tagle at the top of the list of who is going to walk out on the balcony.
Yes, that seems to be what will happen as the favored choice. If it doesn't, the surprise, I think, might be that we've gone back to an Italian Pope. Now, of course, Parolin is Italian, but he's the expected one. If they wanted to go a little bit outside the box, they probably would choose an Italian who has a lot of international experience, who has worked in a lot of other countries and has worked on issues that have been important to Pope Francis and want to continue in that vein. And there are a few candidates that haven't been discussed as much who may fit that bill. And again, that could be the compromise, because you're going back to an Italian, but it's not necessarily a bureaucratic Italian cardinal, but rather one who has really done ministry, who has done a lot in international relations, who maybe knows other languages, who is involved in migration, ecology. And there are a few that fit that bill that we haven't spoken about. So I think but it would be hard for them to get through this quickly, I think. But it would be the possibility of the outsider, I think, that may be what could happen.
And that is perhaps why, you know, you went go from a lump in your throat to suddenly very fast floating butterflies.
Look, I think that, one thing about this conclave is that, the cardinals were meeting for a number of days. They weren't just having the formal meetings, they were also having the off-the-record private dinners, and, of course, the cardinals were giving interviews, but there are also cardinals who didn't give interviews.
Yes.
And I think those who didn't give interviews perhaps were the ones who were being very influential and were very conscious that there is huge media interest and were very keen to keep their cards close to the chest. So that's why it is very hard to say who might be coming out onto the balcony now, because, of course, in 2013, I remember I was there in St. Peter's Square when the name Bergoglio was announced, and it was Pope Francis. That was a huge surprise to many people. So it could be another surprise, or it could be, as you say, one of the front runners.
We just don't know. As we see, obviously, the processions to Scar, all of them gathering right in front of the balcony where the Pope will soon appear, and we'll say, and we'll put this up because the next thing that will happen will be when the Pope is announced, right? Like you said, that there will be an announcement, and it will say, I announce to you a great joy. We have a Pope, the most eminent and reverend Lord, they will say the first name, Cardinal of the Holy Roman Church, his last name, who takes to himself the name, and that will be the selected name.
That's right. That's the formula that will be read out in Latin by Cardinal Dominique Mamberti, the proto-deacon, the most senior cardinal deacon. And, I expect he will emerge quite soon. It's been, what does it mean, around half an hour. So should be around 30 to 40 minutes, maybe a bit longer, depending on what else is going on. But yes, it will be.
How long is it taking to pray in that room, or cry as it may be, in the room of tears, as it's called?
Exactly. I think it's obviously a hugely emotional moment for whoever's been elected.
And truly alone in that room? Or
well, maybe with some other cardinals, but of course, when you become Pope, it is a kind of, someone said, a cardinal to me, it's like a sort of mini death, because you're not going to go back home. You're not going to be able to go out to a restaurant anymore. You're going to have to give yourself fully in the service to the church. So whoever has been chosen now has a very different life ahead of them.
I guess one could say a mini death or a rebirth.
Or rebirth, exactly.
Depending how you see it, but that's why the emotion, the tears. David Culver, who are you seeing now where you're standing?
Hey, Aaron, it's getting very crowded down here in St. Peter's Square, I'll tell you, and we're all the way in the back just so that we can sustain a cell signal, because in the midst of that crush, everything went out because everyone had their phones up and they were trying, of course, to communicate to their family, their loved ones, and their friends. Now, for some folks, they have their friends here, including Araceli, you're from Texas.
I'm from Texas.
Mercedes, you're from Mexico, and Juliana's from Spain. And you can talk towards me. We have one mic here, so we'll be able to hear you in the midst of the crowd. Araceli, you live here. You just timed it to, you do as well, Mercedes. What is it? How do you describe this?
There's so much hope. It's exciting. It's exciting to see, to be here, to know that now we have a Pope. At the same time, I'm a little sad because I'm already missing Pope Francis. And so it's exciting, but it's a new chapter.
And you think about Pope Francis, obviously so significant to the Latino population, but now we don't know who the next Pope is. We just know we have a Pope. Mercedes, what's going through your mind?
I'm really happy that we soon will know who is the next Pope. I also love Pope Francis and Pope Benedict XVI, Pope John Paul II. Then I'm really looking forward to know who will be the next. And I'm also really happy to see how in the Jubilee 2025, we are able to see this big party for believers and not believers together, waiting for who will be the next Pope.
Juliana, ¿cómo te sientes? How do you feel?
Pues muy agradecida y muy emocionada.
She says very excited, very grateful for what she's seen around us. I mean, Araceli, you live here. Have you ever felt this amount of joy packed into one place?
I felt this joy in 2013
You did.
when Pope Francis was elected. We didn't know it was going to be Pope Francis, but the weather it was dark, it was raining. We didn't expect it was going to be Pope Francis, and he turned out to be an extraordinary father. I mean, really, on all levels, he changed he changed the view of the church for believers and non-believers. And so today it's just a different energy, it's a different time, it's a different circumstance around the world. And it's exciting, but at the same time, it's a new chapter.
A lot of mixed emotions. I can sense it with you. But we'll be here together as we wait to see who comes out on the balcony just ahead of us. Thank you all so much for being with us. Aaron, I'll send it back to you.
Well, David, the smoke was at 6:06 here in Rome time, and usually about 30 minutes later, we see the Pope. So really any moment here, Christopher, and we're hearing the music. I guess let's listen in here as we are watching the balcony. This is the Vatican National Anthem. Let's listen. It would feel that means we are very close.
Yes, that's right.
You have been watching right in front there on that,
Yeah.
right in front of St. Peter's. There had been an empty area where it was cordoned off. Now that's where we're seeing the Swiss Guard, where we see the band, and you also were seeing others.
Yes, I saw some retired cardinals who were over 80, including Cardinal Sean O'Malley of Boston, there, obviously waiting to see the new Pope. There's a cardinal who's over 80. They take part in the pre-conclave discussions and are quite important in them. And so he's obviously there with some other cardinals who are retired to see who the new Pope is. I imagine they have some idea, probably a bit better than us, but they obviously have
But even they would not know.
They won't know for sure, no.
Right. I mean, it's not as if the Cardinals suddenly got their iPhones back the second they walked out, right?
No, exactly.
I mean, I know I sound flip. I'm actually not being flippant, right?
No,
they don't have communications
They haven't got those iPhones or iPads back yet. So those retired cardinals don't know. They're like everyone else. They're waiting for the news.
Kim Daniels is back with us here as well. And we now, if you look at the clock, they said about 30 minutes. That would mean that we are seconds, a couple of minutes away from seeing the Pope.
We're seconds away. I can tell you that I was just down among the people, and people are just streaming in from every street that enters St. Peter's Square. There was a band playing, a marching band down the road. The energy is just amazing.
And it is packed. It is just packed, and everyone's eyes now trained in one place. So, Christopher, as we await in these final seconds, minutes, tell us what's going to happen. The first person we see will not be the Pope.
Will be the Cardinal Proto-Deacon, the most senior Cardinal Deacon, Cardinal Dominique Mamberti, provided he hasn't been elected.
Yeah.
We will see him as the person who has the job of announcing to the world, Habemus Papam, we have a Pope. So he will do that from the balcony of St. Peter's. You can see there the windows will open and he will go out onto the balcony and make that announcement to the world, and that's when everyone will find out.
And so then we hear the name, and then he steps aside, and
the new Pope comes out.
From the shadows, out comes the new Pope.
That's right. He will come out, and we would expect him to address the crowd and offer his first blessing, as is customary. So